The Great Hall of the United Stellar Coalition fell silent. Ambassador Marcus Rivera stood in the center, surrounded by hundreds of alien faces staring down at him. Their eyes glowed different colors: blue, green, purple, but all showed the same thing: fear and disgust. "The evidence is clear," announced Judge Calith, his voice echoing through the massive chamber. The tall, gray-skinned alien's four arms gestured toward the floating screens around Rivera. "This species called humans comes from what they call Earth. Our scientists have studied this world. It is a Class 12 death world." Rivera's hands tightened into fists. He had tried to explain for weeks, but they would not listen. "Look at their sports," shouted Prosecutor Vexka, her snake-like body coiling as she spoke. "They hit each other with sticks. They run into each other at high speed. They call it fun." The alien judges made sounds of horror. Rivera wanted to explain that hockey and football were just games, but Vexka continued. "Their children play with toy weapons. Their stories are full of war and violence. They have a saying, 'Survival of the fittest,' which proves they believe only the strong should live." Rivera stepped forward. "Your Honor, you don't understand. Yes, Earth is dangerous, but that made us work together. We learned to help each other. We've been peaceful since joining the galaxy." Judge Caleth's large black eyes stared at him. "Peaceful? Your history shows thousands of wars. Your planet is covered in weapons. Your movies show destruction of entire cities. Those are just stories," Rivera said, his voice getting louder. "Fiction. Entertainment. Entertainment about violence." Vexka hissed. "What peaceful species finds violence entertaining?" The prosecutor showed more evidence: pictures of human soldiers, videos of boxing matches, even cooking shows where humans used fire and knives. To the aliens, who ate processed nutrition blocks, it looked savage. "They burn their food," gasped one judge. "They keep predator animals as pets," cried another, showing pictures of dogs and cats. Rivera felt helpless. Everything that made humans normal looked terrifying to species that had never faced real danger. These aliens came from safe worlds where the biggest threat was bad weather. "The Coalition has made its decision," Judge Calith announced. "By a vote of 847 to 3, humanity is classified as Galactic Threat Level Omega. All human colonies will be placed under protective custody. All weapons will be removed. All humans will be relocated to designated safe worlds for the protection of the galaxy." Two guards grabbed Rivera's arms. As they dragged him away, he looked back at the judges with pity in his eyes. "You have no idea what you've just done," he said quietly. But they were not listening. They were too busy celebrating their victory over the dangerous humans. Across human space, communication arrays began broadcasting. A single message repeated on all frequencies: "Protocol 77 Alpha is now in effect." The galaxy had just made a terrible mistake. Admiral Elena Vasquez stared at the message on her screen. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago, but she had not noticed. The words from the Coalition High Command were simple and clear. "Humanity has 72 hours to surrender all weapons and submit to relocation. Failure to comply will result in forced pacification." She looked around the bridge of the UES Defiance. Her crew worked quietly at their stations. Nobody was panicking. Nobody was crying. That should have been the Coalition's first warning. "Admiral, call Lieutenant Hayes from the communications station. We're getting reports from all human colonies. They want to know what to do." Vasquez stood up slowly. "Tell them to prepare for visitors. Tell them to use the old protocols." On Colony Beta 7, Farmer John Mitchell looked at his fields of wheat. The Coalition message had reached him an hour ago. He walked to his barn and opened an old wooden box. Inside were his grandfather's tools from the Earth Wars. He started sharpening them. His wife Sarah came out of the house. "The school called," she said calmly. "They're teaching the children how to make smoke bombs from chemistry supplies." John nodded. "Good. The Henderson kids know how to build traps from farm equipment. They're smart kids. On Earth, in the city of New Tokyo, 80-year-old grandmother Keiko Tanaka sat with her knitting circle. The other old women were not knitting scarves anymore. They were following patterns their mothers had taught them during the old wars. Patterns for making things that exploded. "My grandson thinks I'm just a sweet old lady," Keiko said with a smile. "He doesn't know what his great-grandmother taught me about chemistry." The coalition had studied human history but missed the important parts. They saw the wars but not what happened between them. They saw the weapons but not who made them. Every human farmer knew how to make explosives from fertilizer. Every human child learned science that could become weapons. Every human grandmother remembered recipes that could kill. Back on the Defiance, Admiral Vasquez received Earth's official response to the coalition demand. It was written by the Global Defense Council, but the words came straight from human history. Simple and clear. Come and take them. She smiled for the first time in hours. The coalition wanted humanity to run or beg like frightened animals. They expected tears and surrender. Instead, humans were doing what they had always done when threatened. They were getting ready to fight. Lieutenant Hayes looked up from his station. "Admiral, coalition scout ships are approaching the outer colonies." Any response from the colonies? "Yes, Mom. They've all gone dark. No communications, no signals, nothing." Vasquez nodded. "Perfect. Let's see how they like meeting humans who aren't playing by their rules anymore." The galaxy was about to learn why death worlds didn't produce diplomats. They produced survivors. Commander Thex felt proud as he looked at his fleet. 10,000 ships from 12 different species, the best military force in coalition history. They moved toward human space like a metal storm, ready to crush the violent humans once and for all. "Sir," called his navigation officer, "we're entering the outer human colonies. No response to our demands." Thex nodded. "Good. They're already afraid. Begin landing operations on Colony Alpha 3. But when the landing ships reached the colony, they found something strange. The towns were empty. Houses stood open. Food was still warm on tables, but no humans anywhere. "Where did they go?" asked Captain Zoll, his blue skin turning pale with worry. "They ran away," Thex said, but his voice was not sure. "Cowards. Move to the next colony." Colony Alpha 4 was the same. Empty houses, empty streets, but this time they found something else. Welcome mats at every door. All of them said the same thing. Boom. "What does this mean?" Zoll asked. Before Thex could answer, the first ship exploded. Then the second. Then the third. "Report," Thex shouted. "Unknown weapons, sir. They're coming from everywhere." On his screen, Thex watched in horror. Human ships appeared from behind asteroids, from inside gas clouds, from places where there should be nothing. But these were not military ships. They were cargo vessels, mining ships, even school buses from human colonies. A cargo ship moved like a fighter jet, dancing around coalition cruisers. A mining ship cut through armor with tools meant for cutting rocks. The yellow school bus somehow carried weapons that could destroy a battleship. "How is this possible?" Thex whispered. His answer came from a human transmission. The speaker was a woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She looked like somebody's grandmother. "Hello, honey," she said sweetly. "This is Captain Martha Wilson of the Good Intentions. That's my granddaughter's school bus you just shot at. Now, I'm angry." Her school bus fired something that turned a coalition destroyer into space dust. More reports came in. A human construction robot was using welding tools as weapons. A sports car had somehow been fitted with military-grade shields. Children's toy drones were working together like a deadly swarm. "Sir," his communications officer said, voice shaking, "we've lost contact with the 7th Fleet. Last transmission showed human kindergarten teachers using art supplies to make things." "What kind of things?" "Explosive things, sir." Thex realized the horrible truth. Humans had not just prepared for war. They had turned everything they owned into weapons. Every tool, every vehicle, every piece of technology had become part of their military. His fleet was not fighting an army. They were fighting an entire species that had weaponized their civilization. "Sir," came another report, "the destroyer Vindication is requesting extraction. Their crew says they've been changed." On the screen, Coalition soldiers spoke in flat voices while human laughter echoed behind them. Thex finally understood. The hunters had become the hunted. Dr. Sarah Kim stood in a hidden cave on asteroid X-47. Behind her, human technicians worked on captured Coalition equipment. She looked directly into the camera, knowing her message would reach every species in the galaxy. "Hello," she said with a calm smile. "My name is Dr. Sarah Kim. I used to study alien biology. Now I study how to fight aliens." Across the galaxy, Coalition leaders watched her broadcast. They expected threats or demands. Instead, they got a science lesson. "You made a mistake," Dr. Kim continued. "You studied our history and our weapons, but you missed the most important thing. You never asked why we became the way we are." She walked to a wall covered with pictures. Earth animals. Lions, sharks, bears, snakes. These lived on our world. Every single day, our ancestors had to survive things that could kill them. Not sometimes, every day. For millions of years. Coalition scientists in their safe laboratories felt cold fear. Other species evolved to be good at one thing. You, Caliph, your people became great builders. The Vexkay became excellent traders. The Zelkari became master farmers. That's smart. Safe worlds let you specialize. Dr. Kim's smile became sharper. But Earth never let us specialize. We had to become good at everything. We learned to use tools because we had weak claws. We learned to work together because alone we died. We learned to hunt because everything else was hunting us. She picked up a Coalition weapon that had been completely taken apart and rebuilt. "You call our warfare cruel and unfair. You want to know the truth. We've been holding back. For 50 years, we've been playing by your rules. Fighting nice. Fighting fair." The weapon in her hands looked different now. Smaller. Deadlier. "You know what we call fair. Alive at the end. You know what we call cruel. Losing." Reports were coming in from across human space. Coalition forces were finding traps everywhere. Not just bombs. Psychological warfare. Messages that said, "We know where you sleep." Pictures of Coalition families with human signatures. Promises that the war would follow them home. "We are persistence hunters," Dr. Kim explained. "On Earth, we didn't chase prey until we caught it. We chased it until it died from exhaustion. We never stopped. We never gave up. We could track anything, anywhere, for as long as it took." Coalition commanders were starting to understand. Humans didn't just fight battles. They fought until their enemies stopped existing. "You wanted to see what humans do when we're threatened with extinction," Dr. Kim said. "Congratulations. Phase 1 is complete. We've been studying you, learning your weaknesses, mapping your worlds." Her smile disappeared completely. "Phase 2 begins now. Welcome to the long hunt." The broadcast ended. Across the galaxy, Coalition forces realized they were no longer the hunters. They were prey. Captain Jake Torres floated in his spacesuit, looking at the massive Coalition battle station. His ship, the Lucky Strike, was just an old cargo freighter. The battle station had enough firepower to destroy entire planets. "This is crazy, Captain," said his engineer, Pete. "That thing has 10,000 soldiers and the best shields in the galaxy." Jake smiled. "Pete, you're thinking like them. They see a fortress. I see a puzzle." The Lucky Strike approached the battle station's docking bay. Jake had sent a simple message: cargo delivery, mining equipment. The Coalition guards, busy with the war, let them dock without checking properly. 20 minutes later, The battle station belonged to humanity. Jake's team had not used weapons or bombs. They used mining tools, plasma cutters that could slice through any metal, industrial magnets that could crush armor, construction robots that could lift tanks. "How?" gasped Commander Kex as Jake's team captured the bridge. "We had scanners. Security. You scanned for weapons," Jake explained, using a welding torch to cut through the blast doors. "These aren't weapons. They're tools. We just use them differently." The coalition officers were taken to the station's meeting room. Jake treated them well. Good food, medical care, comfortable seats. Then he turned on the big screen. "Movie time," he announced cheerfully. The first video showed ancient Rome. Soldiers who fought for 20 years without giving up. Cities that chose death over surrender. "This is from our history," Jake explained. "These people fought with metal swords and wooden shields." The next video showed World War II. Soldiers fighting in snow, desert, jungle. Cities bombed to rubble but still fighting. These people had simple guns and metal tanks. Then came the space wars. Humans fighting on airless moons. Ships ramming into each other rather than surrendering. Colonies that chose to blow up their own planets rather than be captured. These people had technology like yours. Commander Kex was shaking. "What are you trying to tell us?" Jake's friendly smile never changed. "We've always been like this. Every generation, we got a little tougher, a little smarter, a little more dangerous. You think we're scary now. We're the soft version. Our ancestors would think we're too gentle." The screen showed more videos. Humans surviving in space without proper equipment. Humans fighting alien creatures 10 times their size. Humans turning disasters into victories. "You see, Commander, we don't fight to win battles. We fight to make sure our enemies never want to fight us again." Jake stood up and walked to the window. Outside, more human ships were arriving. Not military vessels, but converted civilian craft. Every human out there knows someone who died because of your decision. Every human out there is personally angry at you. Commander Kex whispered, "How many of you are there?" "All of us," Jake replied simply. "When you threaten humanity, you don't fight our military. You fight our entire species." The Lucky Strike's communications officer called out, "Captain, Coalition High Command is requesting immediate surrender talks." Jake's smile got wider. "Tell them we're just getting started." Lieutenant Maria Santos had been running for 3 weeks. At least, that's what Coalition Commander Zilf thought. His hunting pack had been chasing the lone human across 4 different planets, always one step behind. "She's getting tired," Zilf told his soldiers. "Humans need 8 hours of sleep. They need hot food. They need clean water. We have her trapped on this ice world. She cannot survive much longer." Zilf was wrong about many things. Maria crouched behind a frozen rock, watching the coalition camp below. She had been watching them for days, learning their routines, counting their weapons, studying their weaknesses. She had slept 3 hours each night. She ate their food when they left it unguarded. She drank melted snow. Her human body, designed by millions of years on a death world, could handle what these aliens could not imagine. "Sir," called Sergeant Vex, the human left tracks heading toward the canyon. "We have her cornered." Zilf smiled. "Finally. Signal the other units. We end this tonight." But Maria was not in the canyon. She was behind them. She had made those tracks 3 days ago, then doubled back. While they slept in their heated shelters, she had been busy. Coalition soldiers needed their environmental suits to survive the cold. Maria had sabotaged every backup power cell in their supply depot. They needed regular meals of processed nutrition blocks. Maria had poisoned half their food supplies with local plants that made aliens sick, but were harmless to humans. Most importantly, they needed to feel safe to sleep well. Maria had been leaving small signs everywhere, scratches on their ship hulls, footprints in impossible places, messages written in Coalition standard. "I know where you sleep." She's playing with us. whispered Private Cole. Like a cat playing with mice. Zilth slapped him. Nonsense. We are the hunters. She is just one small human. That night, Maria struck. Not with weapons or explosives. With patience. She cut their communication cables. She drained their vehicle's fuel. She stole one boot from each sleeping soldier. Small things. Annoying things. When Zilth woke up, his entire unit was limping, freezing, and unable to call for help. Where is she? He screamed into the empty air. Maria's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. She had hidden speakers around their camp. Right here, she said calmly. I've been studying you for 3 weeks. I know everything about you, your sleep schedule, your fears, your families back home. Zilth spun around, trying to find her. You hunt in packs because you're afraid to be alone. You need machines to survive because your bodies are weak. You follow orders because you can't think for yourselves. Show yourself, coward. Maria laughed. I'm not hiding, Commander. You're just not good enough to find me. The trap was perfect. Coalition reinforcements arrived to find Zilth's entire battalion unconscious, tied up with their own equipment. Maria sat on a rock nearby, eating their food. Phase 2 is complete, she reported to Human Command. They're not hunting us anymore. We're farming them. Fleet Admiral Chen Wei stood in the war room on Earth. Around him, holographic displays showed the galaxy burning. For 50 years, humans had played by alien rules. They had been polite, careful, civilized. That time was over. Activate Total War Doctrine, Chen ordered quietly. Across human space, military commanders received the same message. All restrictions removed. Show them what we really are. Captain Morrison of the UES Relentless received new orders. Instead of protecting his ship and crew, he was told to win at any cost. His ship charged straight into a coalition fleet of 50 vessels. Sir, we can't win this fight, his weapons officer shouted. We're not trying to win, Morrison replied. We're trying to teach. The Relentless rammed directly into the coalition flagship. Both ships exploded, but the message was clear. Humans would rather die than lose. On Kepler Station, Colonel Davis led a boarding action against a coalition fortress. When his men ran out of ammunition, they used knives. When the knives broke, they used their hands. When they got wounded, they fought harder. Coalition General Thrak watched in horror as human soldiers continued fighting with broken bones and bleeding wounds. His own troops, who had never felt real pain, surrendered rather than face creatures who seemed to enjoy being hurt. They're not normal, Thrak whispered. They get stronger when they're damaged. Dr. Kim's broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy. This time, she was not calm and scientific. She was angry. You wanted to see monsters, she said. You wanted to judge us by your fears instead of our friendship. Fine. Here are your monsters. The screen showed human history that made coalition leaders sick. Soldiers who fought for days without food or sleep. Cities that burned their own buildings rather than surrender them. Parents who taught their children to make weapons from household items. This is what we were before we met you, Dr. Kim continued. Before we learned to be nice. Before we learned to hold back. You have decided that being nice was weakness. Human ships began appearing everywhere at once, not arriving through normal space travel, but dropping out of hyperspace in impossible formations. They had learned coalition technology and made it better. How are they moving so fast? Coalition Admiral Zex demanded. His science officer was shaking. Sir, they've somehow improved our own engines. In weeks, they've done what took us centuries. The humans were not just fighting anymore. They were hunting. Every coalition world found human ships in their skies. Every coalition family found messages telling them their soldiers were never coming home. We tried to be your friends, Dr. Kim's broadcast concluded. You chose to make us your nightmare instead. On Earth, Admiral Chen watched the reports. Coalition forces were surrendering everywhere. Not because they were defeated, but because they were terrified. Sir, his aide asked, should we accept their surrender? Chen thought about the human children who had died in the first attacks, about the colonies that were bombed, about 50 years of trying to be peaceful only to be called monsters. Not yet, he said. They haven't learned enough. Deep beneath Earth's surface, blast doors that had been sealed for decades slowly opened. Warning lights flashed red as ancient elevators carried their cargo upward. Colonel Alex Petrov stood waiting as the first transport arrived. The soldiers who stepped out looked human, but something was wrong. They moved too smoothly. Their eyes were too calm. They had been sleeping in the deep bunkers since the end of the Earth Wars, waiting for a threat that required their special skills. "Welcome back," Petrov said to their leader, a woman who looked 30 but had been born 80 years ago. "The galaxy needs to meet the real monsters." Captain Nova Sterling smiled. It was not a nice smile. "How bad is it?" "Bad enough that Command authorized your release." Nova nodded. "Good. We were getting bored." These were not normal soldiers. They were humans who had scared other humans during Earth's darkest wars, enhanced with technology that pushed the human body beyond its limits, trained in warfare so brutal that it was banned on Earth. But this was not Earth anymore. This was survival. Nova's unit deployed across coalition space like a plague. Where normal human soldiers fought with honor and strategy, Nova's people fought like natural disasters. On Vex Prime, they turned an entire city into a maze of traps using only the buildings and vehicles they found there. Coalition forces entered to capture the city and never came out. The few survivors spoke of humans who appeared from shadows, struck without warning, and vanished like ghosts. On Zelkar Station, they infiltrated the command center by pretending to be coalition prisoners. When the guards tried to interrogate them, they discovered that these humans could not be broken by pain, fear, or torture. Instead, they seemed to enjoy it. "What are you?" General Klex asked Nova as she sat calmly in the interrogation chair, even though they had been hurting her for hours. "We're what humans become when we stop pretending to be nice," she replied. "Your people evolved on safe worlds. You never learned that sometimes, to protect what you love, you have to become something terrible." The Coalition High Command received reports that made them sick. Human soldiers who fought more effectively when wounded, units that seemed to communicate without radios, fighters who treated impossible odds as entertainment. "They're not following any rules of war," complained Admiral Vexka. "Because you declared war on their entire species," Earth's response came back. "You wanted to see what humans do when truly threatened. Congratulations, you're seeing the humans we keep locked away because they scare us." Nova's final message to the Coalition was simple. This is not war anymore. This is pest control. You are the pests. The galaxy learned that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or numbers. It was their ability to become whatever the situation required, no matter how terrifying. Ambassador Marcus Rivera walked through the ruins of the Coalition capital. His guards were human soldiers, but they were not needed. The few remaining Coalition leaders were too broken to fight. In the emergency meeting room, 12 species leaders sat around a table that once held thousands. Their mighty coalition was gone. Half their worlds had surrendered. The other half were begging for mercy. "You wanted to meet," Rivera said, sitting down across from them. "Here I am." Former Judge Kelleth looked terrible. His gray skin was pale, and his forearms shook. "Please," he whispered, "make them stop." Rivera looked at each of them. These beings had judged humanity without understanding. Now they were learning the price of their mistake. "You had 50 years to know us," Rivera said calmly. 50 years of humans working beside you, helping you, being your friends. But you chose to see only what scared you. He placed a small device on the table. It showed images of the war. Coalition worlds where humans had passed through like a storm. Empty cities, surrendered fleets, entire species hiding in bunkers. "Do you know what the difference is between war and what humans do when they're actually trying to kill something?" Rivera asked. The alien leaders stayed silent. War has rules. War has limits. War has goals like capturing territory or resources. Rivera's voice got colder. What you're seeing now is not war. It's problem-solving. You became a problem that threatens human survival. So humans are solving you. Former prosecutor Vexka spoke with a broken voice. We were afraid. Your people are so violent. Violent? Rivera laughed, but it was not a happy sound. You think this is violent? Our children are playing in human parks while their parents fight your armies. Our grandmothers are knitting sweaters while building bombs. This is humans being gentle. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, human ships filled the sky like stars. You study our history and missed the important part. Yes, humans fight each other, but we also protect each other. When you threatened all of humanity, you made every human your personal enemy. Rivera turned back to them. You can surrender now and learn to live with what you've awakened. Your species can survive and maybe, in a few hundred years, earn human forgiveness. What's the other choice? Caliph asked. Rivera's expression became stone. You continue fighting, and humans stop seeing you as fellow intelligent beings. You become just another environmental hazard to be cleaned up. The silence stretched for long minutes. We surrender, Caliph whispered finally. Rivera nodded. Smart choice. But understand this. The galaxy has changed forever. Humans will never again pretend to be less dangerous than we are. Never again will we let fear and ignorance threaten our children. He walked toward the door, then stopped. Welcome to the new galaxy. Try not to make us angry again. 6 months later, Admiral Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of her flagship, the UES Peacekeeper. Below her, the former coalition capital world bustled with activity. Humans and aliens worked together, building something new. It was not the same galaxy anymore. Admiral, called Lieutenant Hayes. The morning reports are ready. Vasquez nodded, reviewing the data. No wars anywhere. No conflicts between species. No threats to civilian populations. The galaxy was more peaceful than it had been in centuries. The secret was simple. Everyone knew humans were watching. In the rebuilt Galactic Council chambers, Ambassador Rivera addressed representatives from 200 species. The room was different now. Humans sat among them, not as guests, but as equals. More importantly, everyone knew what happened to species that threatened others. The Krex Empire has been raiding civilian shipping, Rivera announced. This ends today. The Krex ambassador, the large insect-like being, buzzed angrily. You cannot tell us what to do. We are a proud warrior race. Rivera smiled politely. Captain Martinez, please show our friend the educational video. On the main screen, footage played from the war 6 months ago. Human children converting toys into weapons. Grandmothers making explosives from kitchen supplies. Ordinary humans doing extraordinary things when their families were threatened. The Krex ambassador stopped buzzing. This is what happens when you threaten civilians, Rivera explained. Humans take it personally. All of us. Within an hour, the Krex Empire announced they were retiring from raiding and taking up peaceful mining instead. On New Terra Colony, human children played in parks with alien friends. Their parents watched from nearby benches, looking relaxed and happy. But experienced eyes would notice that the playgrounds were designed with clear sight lines. The benches had weapon storage. The parents all carried emergency beacons. Humans had learned to be peaceful, but they never forgot how to be dangerous. Dr. Sarah Kim, now the galaxy's Director of Species Relations, gave her weekly broadcast. Her message reached every world, every ship, every station. The galaxy is safe, she said with a warm smile. Not because we removed all dangers, but because we removed the biggest one. The danger of good people being unable to protect themselves. She gestured to the camera. Humans are not the galaxy's conquerors. We're the immune system. We exist to make sure that species who want to live in peace can do so without fear. A memorial wall in the council chambers held a simple message, in memory of the brief war that taught the galaxy why death worlds don't produce diplomats. They produce survivors. At the bottom, in smaller text, was humanity's promise to the stars. We are the ones who stand between you and the dark. As long as humans exist, the innocent will be protected. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Never wake the humans.